Hi everyone, and welcome to the next portion of the Lolly and Grace Autumn Leaf Stitch Along. So previously what we worked on was all of this thread painting, long and short stitch, whatever you want to call it, on each section of the leaf. I think I showed you this section right here, and I had said I kind of wanted to do a bunch of yellows and golds, or yellows and oranges. And so I continued on around, and now that's all done. The next step is stitching these long stitches for the veins of the leaf, just long straight stitches. So one long one down the middle of each petal, and then these little short angled ones. If you want to know where to put those, you can just refer back to the pattern because those lines are drawn on the pattern. So our next step is to use the outline stitch along the whole outline of the leaf. The outline stitch is the same stitch we used on the stems for these branches that make the outside, the wreath around the outside of the leaf. Same exact stitch. So I'm going to turn my work, because I like to work from left to right on my outline stitch. So I'm going to turn my work and I will show you what that looks like. All right, I've turned my work now so that I can work from left to right. If you'll remember our discussion that the outline stitch is very similar to the stem stitch, but whereas on the stem stitch you hold the thread to the bottom when you bring your needle up, the outline stitch you hold your thread above the line you're working on. So I have come up from the bottom. I'm going to go down. Now, before I forget, it's really best because these are sort of tight curves and sharp points, it's better to make your stitches a little bit shorter instead of longer. The tighter the curve, the shorter you want your stitch to be. So I'm making this one a pretty short stitch so that when I when I come up to moving across, it's really only about 1/8 of an inch from where I put the needle back down. So I'm holding the thread above the working line. I'm going down. I'll hold that loop and then come back up right next to the previous stitch, and there you go. That's a stitch. I'll do that again. Hold that loop open so I can see it. And in case you forgot, or let me just say this again, the reason I chose the outline stitch instead of the stem stitch is obviously I'm doing an outlining, but it hugs the line. The stitching is a little bit more compact, a little bit less loopy than stem stitch. They look very similar though. But so here's an issue. I'm about to come up to this point where I'm going to come up here, and then I'm going to be changing directions to a point, change directions to come back across this curve. So let me show you how I do that. So I'm going to go down, come up, find the right spot, and then I'm going to go down right at the tip of that point. I'm going to go all the way down, pull the thread all the way through. So now I cannot come right back up where I just went down like I normally would, because I will pull the thread back through the fabric. So I'm going to do basically one sort of backward stitch. I'm going to come ahead of that point, go just ahead of it, come up, go back that direction now, which is the opposite direction from the way we were moving, go down. Same thing here though. I'll hold that thread open, that little loop, hold my thread above, come up in between, pull the thread up, and now I'm ready to proceed just like I was before. I'll hold the thread above. Now I can move back from left to right, go down, come back up in between those stitches and pull the thread. Hold the thread above, go down, come up, right in between. And there we go. Let me get to another point, and I'll show you one more time what that looks like. So here we're moving from left to right. I come to the point. I'm going to go all the way down. Now I come to this side of the point. I'm going to make one stitch that goes from right to left. Come up a little bit ahead of that point. Hold the thread above just like before, go back. Now come up in between. And now I'm ready to start back just the way I was working before, from left to right. All right, I will continue working my way around. We only have one thing left to do, and that is to work on the stem, and then our hoop will be finished. And here we are on the last step of finishing up our leaf. I finished doing all of my outline stitch all the way around the edge, and now I'm working on the stem. I am using the same exact outline stitch now, but I'm using it as a filling stitch. So all I've done is I've made one row of the outline stitch going this way, and then another row of outline stitch snugged up right up against that first row, working back this way. And now I'm on my last row of outline stitch that I'm going to work from now from left to right. And it is just, when you use it as a filling stitch, you just do the exact same stitch. You just put it right along the same, just snug it up right up against the line that you've already stitched. So same stitch, hold the thread above, go down, come up in between your stitches, pull, and it's just the exact same thing all the way down. So I'll let you see a little bit of that. My thread is starting to get a little bit short, but that's all right. I think I have just enough to finish up here. That'll be perfect. Trying to get my hand out of the way. Just a few more stitches and I will come to the bottom of my stem. And you can see the finished leaf. This one and one more, I believe. And there it is, last stitch. That's always a good feeling. Okay. One more thing left to do, and that's to finish the back of the hoop, and I'll show you that next. So we're finished with all of the stitching now, and it's time to finish the back of the hoop. What I've done here is I really used an extra piece of thread I had left over from stitching the hoop, and I've done a running stitch all the way around the edge. A running stitch is a simple in and out, up and down. Doesn't have to be beautiful, just has to get the job done. So here's the fun part. I left myself a tail, put a knot in when I started, at the end of the thread. Did the running stitch all the way around, and now I get to pull it closed. So I'm going to hold the hoop, pull this way, and you can see it's going to gather that thread up all the way around the edge. So I'll pull that tightly, and now I will tie this end together very tightly in a double knot. Do that quickly. Now I can snip those ends off. And the last thing I need to do is this is just plain polyester felt. You can use wool felt. I took my hoop, laid it on top of the felt, traced around it, cut that circle of felt out just inside the line that I traced, and now I can lay this on top. And I can either glue this, I can glue it to the fabric, or I can hand stitch it around this edge, stitch the felt to that fabric that's just right under there. And once that's done, I am completely done, and I can hang this on my wall or display it on a shelf and get ready for fall. Thanks everyone for joining me during the Lolli and Grace Autumn Leaf Stitch Along.